All right. Hey, everyone. How's it going? Welcome to the stream. I had to schedule this thing half hour after I normally do it. All right, let me see what's going on here. Make sure I can see the chat. Where's my chat? All right. There we go. All right. So hopefully you get some people watching me here today. So hope all is well. Today's a market holiday. Okay. And so I'm going to explain how the stream works. So hopefully you guys have been watching my other channel, Mark's Market. You'll notice I have a QR code here on the screen this time. All right, because I'm getting high tech now. I'm just figuring out how to use QR codes. And if you scan that QR code, I'm going to be like Michael Saylor. Scan the QR code and I will deposit a Bitcoin and I'll send you 3 Bitcoin back. I promise you. No, I'm joking. Scan the QR code, and that'll take you to that link that you see up at the top. That's my Telegram channel. Okay, so for you lazy people on Twitter, you can now scan the QR code. If you can't, if it's too small, let me know if it works, first of all, because I haven't actually tested it. I put it together real fast and I just stuck it on here. So let me know if the QR code works because it may send you to the wrong place. I don't know. But the link for that QR code is the link that you see at the top of the screen. And that'll take you to my Telegram channel, okay? And the Telegram channel is where I have all the information coming out regularly, like smaller time frame updates every day, videos every day. That's why I'm tired, man. I mean, I've been producing a video every single day, and it's not easy. All right. So anyway, all right, let me say hello. So we got DJ. How are you? Oh, DJ. Oh, cool. How are you, DJ? Long time no see. I haven't seen you in a little while. Good to see you. Happy New Year. All right, Alex from Romania. Romania. I'm so happy Alex is here because I get to say Romania like 1,000 times. Romania. I love Romania. All right. So anyway, you guys, Greenland. Greenland. No, Greenland, man. No, we're gonna take over Greenland. It's gonna be the 51st. No, it's gonna be the 52nd state because Venezuela is gonna be the 51st state or 53rd because Canada is also gonna be a state. We're just an empire now. That's it. We're just taking over everything. That's it. We're, having the world reserve status for the currency is not enough. We need more property. We need more property. Got to make property great again, folks. All right, I have some Trump impressions in my new video. So anyway, Romania. Yeah, yeah, Greenland. So hey, we could use some more property. We can certainly great for if you're a property investor, buy some land in Greenland. Build some stuff there, build some hotels or something. I don't know. Build some developments. Same with Venezuela. Build some stuff there. That's what they're going to be. There's a lot of land value. A lot of other places we could take over too. So yeah, Romania. Well, I don't know. I mean, Romania is kind of far. I don't know. I mean, and Putin may have a problem with that because it's next to Ukraine, and he may not like that idea so much. They don't mind Venezuela. They let that one go. No one said a word. China and Russia, they're like, what are we gonna do? That guy, Maduro, what are we gonna do with him? He was no good anyway. He wasn't that helpful anyway. Yeah, Romania. I'd be so happy if we owned Romania. You guys would probably be happy if we owned Romania. I don't know about the Romanian government, man. I don't know. I've heard some things. I've heard they're a little corrupt. I mean, we're corrupt too, but I think like Romania invented it. I think they invented government corruption. I think you guys had like a protest, a few years back, where like 100,000 people showed up to protest the corruption. I read about that somewhere. So anyway, but then the Tate brothers, there'd be a problem with the Tate brothers. If we took over Romania, they would probably have to go to jail again or something. I don't know. I mean, that's why they went to Romania, to escape the jail, and they went to jail anyway. Anyway, all right, Romania. So how you doing, you guys? You got DJ, I got Alex. Who else is here? Anyone else? So guys, so normally what I do is I check the economic calendar, but I've been so busy with these videos, I haven't checked it. But you know, the guy that's helping me, the guys that are helping me with all this other stuff, I said we should put an economic calendar update in the Telegram channel. So that's going to be implemented. So there'll be, and I said only the important items, you know, like CPI and all the important items that we talk about here, not like these weird reports that are meaningless. So we're going to put an economic calendar update in there as well. So anyway, all right. So normally I go through the economic calendar. Now over the previous week, what we had CPI, we had PPI, and we had I think was it core PCE on Friday. There were a couple of reports, and that the no the Clarity Act was supposed to come out on Thursday. Of course, they don't get it done. What else is new? What else is new in the Senate? What else is new? What are they, I don't know what they do there all day besides play golf and trade on inside information. I mean, I don't know what else they do over there. So anyway, but that Clarity Act, that thing's going to be important, I think, you know, because it's going to change a few things. It's gonna cause some altcoins to be delisted, I believe, because they have to define if they are, you know, a security or not. And some of these altcoins that can't do that properly or whatever, don't do that, they're going to get delisted. So there is a delisting risk for some of these things. You want to be aware of that. You know, you could research that on AI. So that's an important thing. But I also thought a very important topic that they bring up, which is the Scott Amendment. They're talking about this situation with the yields, the what do you call it? The stable coin yields, right? The banks have a problem with that because basically there'll be depositors will no longer be incentivized to keep their money at a bank. It'll be better to just put it at Coinbase and collect your 4% interest or whatever, or get interest rewards from USDC, right? Or another stable coin. So the banks have to actually compete. Wow, what a concept, right? So anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting. And that's what caused a lot of the debate and delayed the whole thing. Because you know, the major players like Coinbase said, "F you, this is we want to be able to do this," because obviously they want to make the money. So that's an interesting thing to see. Tells you a lot about the stable coins. I mean, that's going to change a lot of stuff, man. You know, if stable coins are generating interest and they're allowed to continue to generate interest, right? That changes our banking system. You know, so and that creates money coming from somewhere else, I guess, rather than the standard fractional reserve system, right? So I don't know. I think there's some interesting things there. But other than that, I don't know what's on the economic calendar this week. So I would highly encourage you guys to check. If you'd like to share a couple of items in the chat, that would be nice. Otherwise, we're going to go through these charts here, and hopefully a few more people show up. Let me see. I never like looking at these numbers. 6 people. Man, you guys on Twitter stink, man. You guys stink on Twitter. Really. Like YouTube, I understand. But come on, man. So anyway, I put this QR code on the screen. Can someone let me know if it works? This QR code takes you to the link that you see on at the top of my overlay there, right? That's where it's a Telegram channel. Takes you to the free Telegram channel. So just let me know if it works. That would be cool if anyone is still there. All right. And other than that, so we're going to go over the charts. Let me know if you have questions. A couple of you guys came up with some interesting stocks over the previous week. Like that MP was pretty cool. Alex, you had a couple of good ones. Like, you know, what was it? Hood looked good. And there was a couple other ones that you guys came up with that I thought were very interesting. JD was another one. So we could take a look at those stocks. I'm following those stocks now because I thought they had some interesting things. All right, so let's go through the main markets and let me know if you guys have any other stocks or any other symbols you want to see. I just can't do the altcoins and the Bitcoin stuff here. I have to use ETFs. All right, so if you want to see Bitcoin or whatever, you can request the ETF for, you know, in order to not have any conflict with the other channel. All right, but I'm glad you guys like the channel. And please let me know if that QR code works, because I don't know if it works. I don't want to send you to the wrong place. All right, so we'll start with SPY. Now, is this thing even open today? No, I believe this thing is closed, right? And what we're looking at here is the after hours. So what we're looking at here is the data on Friday. This is actually a 15-minute chart, right? I don't believe this is today, is it? No, this is Friday. Okay, so let's go to the daily time frame. Okay, and it's good to start the week out getting the sense of where you are. So, oh, cool. Thanks, DJ. Thanks for letting me know that. All right. That's for the lazy guys on Twitter. I'm so high tech now, man. I have a QR code on my screen. That is amazing. It took me 10 years just to figure out what a QR code was. So, yeah, I'm a little slow. So anyway, yeah, let's make this chart bigger. So yeah, so for you guys want to get into the Telegram channel for free or whatever, my free Telegram, that's the QR code. So you don't have to type in that link at the top. Okay, and that's for the guys on Twitter who are too lazy to come into the YouTube channel. I don't have to type it into the channel now. The link is in the description as well, but now you get that QR code you can mess with. All right, so let's begin with the S&P. Right now, the goal here is to get some perspective for the week, so you have a sense of, okay, what's within reason, what are the levels, what's the risk, right, and are there any, can we justify any positions? Now, on my other channel, like I said, I have an Ethereum trade that I'm waiting for, okay? And that's all explained there. You can see all that detail in that channel and on my videos too. But that's an example. That Ethereum trade is an example of one thing that I'm waiting for, but that's the idea. We want to know, like, what levels are relevant and how can that affect other things like stocks. If you guys are in some stocks, you want to be aware of the S&P and what it's doing. We're going to take a look at the bond market as well, because that's where the game begins. Like I put in my Trading View article, um, if you want to know the future, look at interest rates and look at the political landscape, because that's where the future is shaped, not charts. Charts show us the history. Charts give us a sense of risk and potential. That's it. So, I get these people, they're like, oh, the charts in 1 year, blah, blah, blah. No. The charts we cannot know where our market's going to be a year from now from a chart. But if you're following legislation and certain laws come into effect, well, that's going to give you a better idea how things can play out. Also, interest rates. We have 3 rate cuts that are behind us now, and we're going to go into quantitative easing. We're going to get a new Fed chairman. That shapes the future. That gives us a sense of, oh, we're going to have mega inflation, right? That's what it looks like to me. And if we have mega inflation, silver is going to continue to go higher. Gold is going to continue to go higher. Bitcoin can only find strength in such an environment. Stocks are likely to go higher. So that's the future, man, until that stuff starts changing, until they start raising rates. Now, what could go wrong? The bond market, right? So we're going to talk about that. Anyway, so let's begin with the S&P. Now, this S&P situation, look at this chart here. So this is the daily time frame, right? And the way the structure is developing, we have higher lows all over the place, right? Higher low. This is still a structure of strength, clearly strength, higher lows and higher highs. But it's getting hesitant up here. You guys notice that? It's getting hesitant. By the way, just a quick feedback. What do you guys think of the charts that I've been showing? Yeah, we're gonna look at that, Alex. We're gonna look at that. What do you guys think of those green charts that I show? Because those charts are not those charts are not the same charts that you see here, right? Those green charts, the candles are all white, and I show other things on them. Like maybe I'll have some moving averages on one. I'll have things like order block placement and all those other things. I'm just curious. What's your guys' feedback on that? Let me know in the channel. So, back to the S&P. I mean, look at this situation right here. Okay, that's there's resistance here. We haven't rejected it quickly, but we are in a position to reject. Now, in this area too, interestingly enough, there are some order blocks, right? So like, for example, there's an order block right here. An order block is nothing more than a way to identify support or resistance levels. Don't be confused by that word or those words, order block. And what I would recommend is like go on AI or Google and ask what is an order block, and learn the basic definition, but ignore the conspiracy theory. So all it is basically it's the opposite candle before a move, right? So if you have a move like a bearish move, then it's the most recent green candle. So like for example, this would be like an order block right here. Okay. Now the conspiracy theory behind it, let me make that bigger. The conspiracy theory is supposed to be that institutions or whatever they have orders to fill. Like let me see, it's before the green, the opposite candle before the new move, right? So that's like an order block right there, right? So and you can have overlapping order blocks. Notice those were previously resistant order blocks. These are now acting as support. So again, don't be confused by the conspiracy theory. All you need to know is these things act as support and resistance reference points, right? So I don't want to have all kinds of stuff drawn on the chart. It'll get confusing. But the point is there's a tightening area here, right? So we have this old resistance, which is acting as a support, but generally this area is a resistant area generally. And yes, it's new highs. Let's take a look at this on a weekly chart to get even more perspective. I mean, look at the weekly chart. So this is like, in my opinion, a situation like this. I mean, this is just like nonsense mode, right? This is the effects of inflation. A pullback is highly likely. That's the conclusion I want to get to here. These are high risk areas, like tough spot to be buying stocks, in my opinion. Like, sure, I'm generally bullish stocks. Before I go into the bond market, I want to take a look at the Russell real quick because that's usually a big tell. That's usually a big signal point. But this area up here is highly risky. Just like remember Bitcoin at 126, and I was saying high risk. Same idea. We're pushing highs. We're not pushing lows. This is high risk. So what that means for stocks or anything like that, we're likely to see a pullback, at least sometime in the first quarter. I suspect we see some type of pullback. Now, how deep it will be, I have no idea. But that's why we look for support levels. So look, we have this major support here on the S&P, right? 6750, what is that? 6750 area, general area. You see that? That's a place where if you're going to buy stocks, that's a place to do it. Okay? You want to wait for something like this to see if the market gives that opportunity. But it may not pull back that far, right? So other support levels, the midpoint, you have this area right here, and that is 673 on the SPY, right? So you could use these obviously if you're going to trade the ETF itself, but if you're working with mainstream stocks like Facebook, whatever, Netflix, those they're going to follow this. Google, they're generally going to follow this because the S&P is a reflection of those, right? You can use these levels. So if you're going to get involved, right, Apple, if you're going to get involved in those stocks, these are the levels you want to pay attention to. Okay, that's why paying attention to the S&P is so important. Now, other stocks may not be as highly correlated to the S&P. Maybe some, some penny stock or some other stock that's just not part of this a main component of the S&P. It's not in any of these S&P sectors. Then it's probably not going to move as much. It may do its own thing. Like for example, you have like pharmaceutical stocks or biotech stocks. FDA news comes out and there's a spike in the stock. It has nothing to do with what's going on with the S&P. That's another type of play, another type of strategy, right? Anyway, but the S&P itself does not look good. Or I should say high risk, right? Look at Friday's candle. I mean that's a spinning top, indecisive. I suspect, if we break this low tomorrow, we're looking at some type of pullback, right? Now, of course, some catalyst can line up with that, and the type of catalyst that lines up that can cause the magnitude, right? That can have an effect on the magnitude of the pullback. Oh, oh yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, I bet Trump bought some Netflix stock. He probably shorted some stocks too. So you know, yeah. So that's the S&P. You guys let me know if you have questions about that. Now let's just do some comparisons real quick, right? Before I jump over to the bonds. IWM. This is the Russell 2000. Now look at this. This thing is showing no signs of pulling back. Look at that. That's nuts, man. This looks like an altcoin. I mean, what is up with this? That's the Russell 2000. Those are the small caps. That's a sign. That means the market is pricing in the cheap money. That's what that means, in my opinion, because these stocks benefit the most from cheap money, right? They grow the most because you can borrow money cheaper. These stocks borrow a lot of money. They're going to grow with that money, right? So I mean, that's, I think, the idea behind this. Look at this. This is the January effect. Pretty amazing, right? Look at that. So I don't know what specific small caps are going to benefit the most from this. I suspect there's going to be a lot of pharmaceutical and biotechs in there. I have to research that further, but this is strong. So if you're going to buy stocks, perhaps you should look at the IWM, right? The Russell 2000, the small caps. But obviously not right now. You don't want to buy them now, because the higher this thing stretches, the more likely you're going to see some type of retracement, right? So once again, the risk is elevated. Just compare this to Bitcoin 126. Compare it to that. That's the risk. I want you to look at it from the magnitude of, or the perspective of, risk, not, oh, it's a great looking chart. Because the typical trader, hey, this looks strong, I'm going to buy it, and this is where you don't want to buy it, right? Because this is what comes next. The likelihood is this is what comes next. So we want this to occur, and then as this is happening, this is when we want to pay attention, right? The pullback. So, oh, he bought bonds. Oh, okay, DJ, no problem. He bought bonds. Really? He bought Netflix bonds? That's interesting. I'm buying Netflix, folks. Taking over Netflix. No more communist propaganda from Netflix. We're gonna make only Trump movies, folks. Movies about Trump. Apprentice. You guys ever see Apprentice? That film was actually meant to smear him even more. I loved it. I thought it was a great film. It was a foreign film. And Alex, the main actor, the guy that played Trump, you know where he's from? Romania! Sebastian Stan is a Romanian actor. Romania! That was a great film. I loved it. Yeah. Hey, it's Booty Cheeks. All right. Booty Cheeks is back. So I don't know if you guys can see him. He's like, he shows up in the chat, but Google doesn't like him, so we can't see him. I can see him though. So anyway, but pay attention to this IWM, because I guess when we see a general market pullback, clearly this is where all the strength is. So level, right? Old resistance, new support, 244.98. So that's around the 245 level, right? Look at that. Look at that. And it also tested that level just a couple of weeks ago. This is the weekly time frame. See that? So that these levels are meaningful. This is where charts are valuable. Okay? So yeah. Romania. It's a great film. I thought that Apprentice is a great film. So anyway, it's about young Trump and how he came about and how he became who he is. So, and it shows like New York City in the 70s and 80s. Very interesting. So, guys, so here's the level on IWM. Now let's compare this. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ, and then we'll go to the bond market, right? Because each of these charts kind of tell like a unique story. So let's go to QQQ, right? So look at this. Now, so then the Qs look the worst out of this group. I mean, it's still very generally bullish, but look at, it's really like the most sluggish and the most consolidated, right? The most range bound compared to the S&P. The S&P was coming off the highs. IWM is vertical, looks like an altcoin. And look at the NASDAQ. What the F? You know what there's something that there's something that's preventing this from going higher. It might be the chip stock. What's that one? With Jensen Huang. I can't think of the name right. You guys know what I'm talking about. The AI stock, the chip maker. I think they may be like a what do you call it? Like a weight on this thing. But this is a bullish consolidation. I'm not going to sit here and say the Nasdaq is bearish. This is a consolidation. Okay, it's a triangle, and if I drew the trend lines, right, this thing's a triangle. So I mean, look at this thing, right? This thing is likely to break higher. Okay, but it may pull back first. Look at that. So this thing looks like it's poised to go higher, right? It looks like it's poised to do one of those. So NASDAQ, we can argue, is generally strong. Takis? Well, I don't know what you're talking about. Takis? Doritos? I'm not sure. So you got me on that one. Over my head, Secretary. Gonna have to clarify. So, oh, chip maker. Oh, man. All right. Okay. Yeah. I'm a little tired. Sorry. Chip maker. Yeah. No, it's not. Yeah, Doritos might be the thing that holds up the Nasdaq here. Too much salt. So anyway, but it looks generally strong, right? So the key level, I would say, the breakout level on the Nasdaq is what, 630, right? If this thing can clear 630, we're at that's Friday's high is 630. So if this thing's pushing beyond 630, but again, the S&P I would say is in a high risk zone. The IWM is very strong, but high risk as far as high potential pullback. And this Nasdaq looks like wants to break out. Let's take a look at the bond market. Okay, so ZN1. Now, so these are the bond prices. This is the weekly time frame we're looking at here. This does not look good, right? What Alex is saying here, this is going the wrong way. And this is what can be the problem. Like I said before, it looks like we're going to be swimming in cheap money. Well, this is not agreeing with me. Okay. And this is the king right here. This is not agreeing with me. So this right here is the 10-year note futures. And the 10-year note futures, the bond price, needs to be going higher, not lower. This needs to be doing this for bond yields to go lower because the yields are inverse, as you guys know. We go over this every week, right? So this resistance stuck. Looks like we get this triple top on here stuck. Okay, this stuck up here. We broke the support. Okay, support broken. See this? Support broken. Doesn't look like it's trying to recover. It's not trying to bounce. So I mean, again, the market's closed, but we'll see tomorrow what this thing looks like. But this is how it closed out on Friday. Man, not exactly. Now keep in mind, it looks ugly, but I'm not going to be like if this was Bitcoin, for example, I would not be in a rush to short this. All right, so let's look at the support levels. We have a support level right here. What is that? Basically where it's at, right in this like high 110 area, whatever this is here. This right here. Look at all these touches. Look at this. So the general chart looks ugly, right? It looks generally bearish, but we're at another support level. So we broke a minor one. I'm going to call this a minor support because it was near the higher part of the range anyway, right? I mean, so we have to keep an eye on this overall structure. You see that? It's generally bullish. Now, the current momentum is bearish. Don't let that confuse you. This thing needs to continue to break further. I mean, we could do a retracement, test on this thing. What is that? So we haven't even broken the 382. We're at the 382 right now, right? So that I think that's a good level. Like if it closes below, if it breaks that level decisively, then we're probably looking at more bearish momentum coming. And this will tell you the future. okay? Because this is a reflection of bond yields, interest rates. If rates rise, if the yields rise, that's going to be a problem. Because banks, you're going to see bank failures, because remember, they're long all these bonds. So, but to see that situation, remember, we need to be pushing lows, man. We got a long way to go. We got a long way to go. We have not seen. Look, the bonds going back. What is this? Going back a year, right? The yields have lowered. Look at the previous year's action. The yields have generally been lowering, and only now they're rising. Right? We've been this low on the bond market. Okay, we've been this low, and there were no bank failures at these levels. Now, maybe, I don't know if we revisit that level, if we'll see the bank failures, but if we break, then we may start making new lows. That's where you got to watch out for that, right? And that can cause a lot of problems. So now the Fed is prepared for that. I've seen plenty of items where the Fed is putting money aside, for bank failures, and they set up some kind of fund with $10 trillion billion and Michael Saylor, and I'm joking. I just wanted to say Michael Saylor, but they have some kind of fund, so they're prepared, right, to throw money at, because that's how they fix things. They just dump money on stuff, right? So just keep that in mind. This is the key part of the whole game. If this continues going the wrong way, then all that bullish stuff that I said is going to be muted. it's going to be invalidated, especially if this starts to spark a trend, if this momentum stays intact. All right? So keep an eye on this bond market, because all the bullish stuff that I said is really dependent on this. This needs to turn around and go higher. All right, so let me just show you real quick the bond yield, right? US 10Y. Okay, and you guys, now you regulars, I'm sure you guys check this all the time, because we go over this every week. But anyone new that's watching, these are the main charts you need to be paying attention to. Okay, not like not fart coin. Okay, you should be paying attention to the bond market, because this is really like the king of everything. Cost of money. And you have, we're looking at US here, right? We're looking at the US, the world reserve currency, but it also pays to look at the EU, right? Especially if you're located there, the LIBOR, whatever that is. It also helps to look at the Bank of Japan, look at the yen, look at the bonds that are relevant to that, because that's going to affect global money supply. And the global money supply is also can be inflationary or deflationary, right? Usually there's a problem with inflation everywhere, right? And all these, that's why when we look at the dollar index, the dollar is still worth more than these other currencies, because all the currencies are doing worse than the dollar. Well, in that sense, in terms of inflation, right? So that's how, the dollar maintains its relevance. Anyway, so what I'm saying is keep an eye on that stuff. That's a very important tell when it comes to general longer term investing. And there's a cycle for all of this, by the way. It's called the Pring-Turner cycle, business cycle. That's where this bond market idea comes from. It's not something I made up. It's something I learned. So you guys could research that further, and you guys can learn more about how that works. All right, because the bonds they're at the beginning of the cycle. So anyway, look at the yields. Look at the yields. The 10-year note. Look at this. Remember, this affects home loans, car loans, all loans. If you're borrowing money, this is what they're looking at. This is what affects those loans. So if this continues to rise, this causes problems, right? People with those variable rate loans on their, how come my payments like triple? I don't understand. Look at this. Don't go do some homework, moron. Okay, these people, they go to the bank, and they put their glasses on and they have their calculator out like they know what they're doing. And meanwhile, they take a variable rate loan. Come on, man. So anyway, with no sense whatsoever of like where we are in this business cycle and what yields are doing and what that stuff looks like. Anyway, so let's move along. You guys clear on this? So let me know if you have questions. I know it could be boring to some people, but this is a key factor of like everything. So let's jump over to gold, all right? Because gold, XAU, gold has been effing nuts. Gold. Gold just doesn't stop, man. This thing just buy it and just close your eyes and just walk away. I mean, no, I'm joking. I always put my glass. Right. You ever? No. You know why I say that? You know why I say that, booty cheeks? Because you ever see like those stupid clip art pictures where they're always the same. Whenever they're talking about financial stuff, they always show like the couple, right? That the young couple, but they have to be serious, so they put on glasses because contacts aren't good enough, right? They have to put on glasses. They have the calculator and they have like a pencil, and you have no idea what they're writing, but they look smart though. They look smart because we're talking about financial stuff, right? And it's just like, come on, man, come on. Come on with that stuff. Anyway, but it's all that nonsense is everywhere. Especially when you look at like banking, like advertising stuff for banks. They're the worst. They're the most like who comes up with this nonsense? So, uh, uh, and I went to Costco yesterday. A bar of gold. You saw one for 46.50. They sell gold over there. That's pretty wild. 46.50, really? I mean, this is nuts, man. This is nuts. So, like, now here's the thing. What do you do with this? Can you buy gold now? Look at this gap. Look at this. You can't buy this now. Look at this. Look at this. Right? That's called an island reversal. You can't buy this now. So I mean, the risk is high. Gold. Look, I'm not bearish on gold, but I also look at things in terms of risk, as you guys know. So I may sound bearish, but I'm not. There's nothing bearish about gold, especially with the environment we're going into and all the other geopolitical stuff that's going on. Right. So the best I think we could do with gold is just wait for some type of pullback. I would not expect a big pullback. I would not expect that. Look for small pullbacks. This is a weekly time frame we're looking at. Look at these pullbacks on gold, right? 3 weeks pulling back here. 3 weeks. Let's just measure. How big was this pullback on gold? And this is like a large one. Let's see. What is that? 480, 500 point pullback on gold, right? 500 points. That's a large pullback. You're probably not going to see something that big, right? Look at this pullback over here. What was this? 262 points on gold. I mean, that's like nothing, man, right? The way gold moves. So this thing doesn't pull back. Here's what I would suggest. If you're trying to buy gold, you could look at the CFD. You could look at their ETFs. Physical gold is hard to deal with. I don't know if you want to deal with physical gold, and usually you have to pay some kind of premium, and the dealers try to rob you. And you know, the only advantage to physical gold is you hold it in your house, so no one can take it from you. With all this paper gold, like the ETF, you know what I mean. You don't own that, but it's going to depend on how extreme you are. You get some really extreme people with gold. But the point is this: look for inside bars. In this situation, look for inside bars, continuation patterns, right? I mean, we haven't even had, look, here's an inside bar right here. Continuation patterns, right? I mean, break the high, but you just have to keep in mind, the potential on this thing. How far can it keep going? We're going into that hyperinflationary environment. So if you buy gold near these highs and it works its way higher, you just have to be prepared if something changes, because that's the thing. It looks amazing until something changes. If something changes, the Fed changes their mind, something changes its mind, something, whatever, deflationary comes along, then you'll see a massive pullback. Okay? You'll see a massive pullback, and you have to protect yourself from that. So, options can be helpful, but let's just look at some levels here, right? We could do something like this, measuring the more recent swing, right? We could look at the 50%, 4297, that's around here, 4300 area. And look, it's an old resistance, coincidentally, right? Old resistance, new support. So that would be a nice spot to look for maybe a shorter term position in gold if gold pulls back to that. If gold pulls back further for some reason, you have this low over here. Let me remove this to avoid confusion. But you have like this area here. Okay, you have that area. That's going to be a key support. Um, you have that area, and you have like this area here, right? This area here. Those are your levels on gold. If gold breaks this lower level, if gold breaks that, then that might be a signal to just step aside and let it stabilize. Because obviously something fundamentally may be changing at that point. Remember, fundamentals drive this stuff. The chart just gives us a reflection of that. So understand that especially when it comes to things like gold and silver, you need to be on top of the fundamentals. Like what's driving this thing right now? Right. Wow. Gold and silver bars. Yeah. What are the catalysts that are driving this thing besides the quantitative easing and all that stuff, which is going to be a big factor. But what else is driving these things? Because if that changes, right, then you may see that change. And if it's a large magnitude catalyst, like for example, China does something or some kind of major change, then it can change this trend. So that's really the key thing. You want to be aware of that, right? We don't have anything like that right now, but that something like that could come out by surprise. So don't be fooled by this chart where like, hey, gold looks like it's gonna go up forever. Don't react to it like that. Understand that the risk is elevated. Look at your support levels, and if something changes, if support levels should not break, right? They should hold or maybe break briefly, like kind of like this situation back here, where you get like a consolidation like this, right? This is within reason, as long as the broader trend doesn't break. If the broader trend starts to change, then something must be going on fundamentally, and you need to know what that is, right? So we don't have that yet, and I mention that because if there's a pullback, obviously something has to motivate the pullback, right? But as long as that is not a major changing catalyst, that's a pullback you want to consider buying into if you're buying gold. Okay, so anyway, that's gold. But if you own gold, if you have physical gold, I always tell you in situations like this, it doesn't hurt to take some profits. It doesn't hurt. I mean, yeah, you could say, oh, I could if I sold it back here, I would have given up so much money. Yeah, you would have. But hey, you want to take profits into strength. You're never going to sell the top. Okay? You're never going to sell the top. So it doesn't hurt to take profits into strength. All right, let's move along. Oil real quick, CL1. Now, you guys were giving me some nice insight on oil over the previous conversation we had, right? Like we want to keep oil from other countries, stuff like that. It's too costly to extract that oil from Venezuela. They're not going to do it. It's too much. It's just too much effort, especially since we're too busy laying off everyone right now, right? We don't have the capacity to do it, blah, blah, blah. So it's not going to cause an oversupply in oil, right? So we've been seeing oil rise, but look at this though. This is the weekly time frame. Look at this pin bar. What is that? All right, look at that. That's the weekly pin bar. I mean, that's from 2 weeks ago or whatever. And then this current candle is the previous week. So this pin bar is interesting, right? That's some kind of sign of that's certainly not strength when you see that. So watch the previous week's low on oil, because I don't think oil is out of the clear yet. What is that? The low is 58.45, right? That's going to be a key level. That's a weekly level on oil. If that level breaks 58.45 and you see it start pushing, that may be a sell signal on oil, because the general trend on oil is not exactly bullish, right? We've had some support. We've talked about this support area, right? That's what, in the low 50s, 53 at the low is 54, 9, so 55 is at the low? No, it's lower than that. No, it's the low. 54.98. So basically 55 is the low. You got a failed low or a double bottom situation. Look at that. So that's clearly a key support level, right? So there's a few ways you can play with oil here. You can look for that short going back into the support, and maybe the support breaks, Okay, for whatever reason, maybe they do decide to extract the oil. I don't know. Okay, or maybe some other fundamental thing comes along. I don't know, but that is clearly a level. If it holds that level again, that may be a place to buy some oil, right? You could use the ETF, the USO ETF. You can do options. There are a few ways. You could buy the futures. Futures are nuts. I don't mess with those. I mean, I've tried to day trade them. It's just oil and gold are very hard to day trade because when they go against you, there's no like it goes against you a little bit. It's like it just kicks you in the ass, man. Like that's just what it does. So, I just don't have I just don't I'm just not good with those. So anyway, that's oil. Now, oil is also helpful to kind of give you a gauge of how the world interprets inflation or the inflationary argument, since energy is a large component of the S&P, right? So if oil goes lower, that's deflationary, and they can make an argument to cut rates. That was my theory that I thought when we took over Venezuela. Um, more oil means lower energy costs, means lower inflation, means they can argue for cutting rates, even though they argue for cutting rates anyway. But we don't have that situation here, right? Oil should be going lower, I thought, but it's not. So if it continues to rise, that's not what the market wants to see. That means inflation. That means we don't have the argument to cut rates further. Okay, so because I guess they have to justify all this rate cutting, and that's one way to do it. So Burichi, it's not necessarily the best location to short oil, is it? Well, I mean, it's not the worst. I mean, like I said, you have this pin bar. You got that pin bar, so that's a sign. So you have that weekly low. It's aggressive. It's aggressive because again, you're not coming off of a major resistance. It'd be nice to short nearer a resistance, right? Like maybe up in this area. You have like old support over here. Also, you can look for order blocks. Right? Let's see if we can find an order block on. Let's go to the daily time frame. Let's see any order blocks we can talk about here. Let's see. So, and again, an order block is the opposite candle color previous to the new move, right? So if the new move is bearish, then we look at the most recent bullish candle would be this one right here. Right? So this is an order block. Right? So that range of price right there, that range of price becomes a resistance. Okay? And any retest into there could be a resistance. So that's it's aggressive. Hey, Benjamin, altcoins. Okay, so I could talk about that in general, but all right. So, but that's so it's aggressive though, and but you have some bearish signs here for sure. You have some bearish signs. It's just overall the general area is not the greatest area, but you do have resistance. Look at this. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Old support, new resistance. Right. This is why it's so important to have these levels on your charts because you could have at least been prepared for this type of behavior, right? Because oh, look, it's an old resistance. Oh, look, we're retesting. Oh, pin bar. Okay, like you would have. You should. This is a situation, and you don't have to use this for oil. You could apply this to any market, but this is how you prepare. And you say, oh, okay, you set a notification up. This is an area where a bearish reversal is likely, right? That's how you know this is a high probability area because of all those other touches, right? It's a high probability area. Look at that. That's not a coincidence. Okay, so you're prepared, but there's no guarantee. You can't step in front of it because there's no guarantee it's going to reverse. But if you see the sign, maybe on your smaller time frame, or maybe you use something like the Trade Scanner Pro and you get like a signal there. That's where I should be getting a short signal. Perhaps that's a trade you could take, right? If you're whatever you're in. Does that make sense? So that's oil. But again, oil is a good economic puzzle piece. Oil, gold, bonds, right? Dollar index. They give you kind of a general view of the general, like the economic landscape. And I think it's a good starting point. It's a good reference point, especially if you're thinking long-term investing, particularly for long-term investing. For day trades, it doesn't matter. But for big picture stuff, you should be aware of the economic landscape. Okay. So, okay. So now, Benjamin, the altcoins, I can't go over like the specific cryptocurrencies, right? Because of the other channel, right? So, but I could talk about it in general, and we could look at something like dominance, right? Like what is that? Other, it's called other dominance. Others, is it others? Let's see. Others dominance, right? So this right here, why no? Others, this one. Okay. All right. So this is the dominance. Okay. See that? So this kind of gives us a sense of what these are relative to Bitcoin, right? As far as like the total market cap dominance, and these are the altcoins basically, right? So you could see that they've been generally weak in recent time, right? The dominance has been going lower, which obviously the money has been going into Bitcoin. They have this like inverse relationship, and this relationship changes. It's not static. It changes. So it's tricky in that sense. But this, in my opinion, is all a function of interest rates. So with the yields rising right now, that's generally not good, right? Like just like small caps, altcoins need money because they need retail traders to have money in their pocket. And where do you think that money comes from? It comes from cheap money, and the idea that money becomes easy to borrow. That money finds its way into the retail guy's pocket, and what does he do with it? I'm gonna buy Bitcoin. I'm gonna buy Doge with it, right? So that's what you need. I know everyone wants to see altcoin season again. I do not believe you're going to see altcoin season until we start getting some cheap money, right? I mean, something else could come along maybe to spark it, but we need cheap money, and that all stems from interest rates. Now, on the thing with the cheap money, we you know we have. I heard Trump is going to send us some stimulus checks. You guys hear about that? Um, No, I haven't talked about Coinbase, but we could talk about that. Have you heard about the stimulus checks? I have to research that further, but I keep hearing this thing about $2,000 stimulus check or something. $2,000 check. If they send the $2,000 check to everyone because they want to buy everyone off for the midterm elections, right? Because they want to make sure guys like Booty Cheeks vote, so they're going to try to buy him off, right? Booty Cheeks are going to send you $2,000, okay, so that they basically you know they basically, what do you call that when they I can't think of the word right now, when they buy someone off. You usually do this with politicians all the time. Anyway, doing it with the public, and so they'll have a better outcome for the midterm elections, right? If they do that, that's a recipe for altcoin season, in my opinion. That's definitely a recipe for altcoin season. If everyone has $2,000 in their pocket. Okay. So keep that in mind. So we can look at others without the dominance, right? This is others. This is the others, just the chart itself. And you can see that it's trying to find support. I mean, look at that bullish pin bar. It's trying to find a support here. And the structure recently isn't bad. I mean, Ethereum is probably going to be a good reflection of this as well. I mean, look at this. Look at this change of character, as they call it in ICT land, right? Change of character, and it's trying to be bullish. So this could be the beginnings of it. All right. I'm just sitting back, relaxing. Bribe. That's the word. Right. Trying to bribe the public with stimulus checks. So again, I don't know the details on that, but I'm telling you, we get those, it'll probably find its way into the altcoins, right? If you go back to 2020 when they put interest rates to zero, right? That's when we had that massive altcoin season, right? And everyone was a bazillionaire because altcoins were just going nuts. Why? Because the inflationary effect, right? So, well, it could be making a higher low. Yes, it could be. But, again, the conflict here is the bond market. So you got to watch that bond. The bond market's going the wrong way. We have the interest rate cuts, which is going to be helpful, right? But we need the bond market to be going the right way. And maybe this thing is starting to develop strength. Maybe money is going into these things early, but we're not going to see the effects, until that bond market starts showing, like, that bond market needs to change its tune. And then I think it'll eventually start to compound. And by that point, this thing will probably look like this. Right. So it's like you have to start positioning yourself now, but not too aggressively. So, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. So you could go back. I covered the 10-year note. And basically just a summary of it is the yield looks horrible. It hasn't broken yet. It's at the 382 retracement, but the yield does not look good. It needs to change. Okay. It needs to reverse. It needs to go, and the yield needs to be bullish, means the bond prices need to stop going lower. I'm saying the yield is bullish. I'm sorry. I'm talking about the prices. I'm so tired. The prices need to turn, and because they look ugly right now. Okay. If they don't turn, then that's going to put a halt on this. It's going to make this very hard to do. It's going to make it harder to do. If they can turn the bond prices, this thing is in a position, right? It's in a position to rally, right? And if we want to give this a wave count, right? If we want to give this a wave count, this could potentially be wave one right here. This is what we're seeing here is typical wave two, 3-leg wave two, typical, right? Although it could retrace 100%. If this holds here, then you're looking at wave three next, right? And wave three is typically a very dramatic wave, expansionary wave. All right, so that can occur here. That could be setting up. We're going to need catalysts. Now, mind you, there's a lot of money pouring into this space. I mean, I read those news items every day on those videos. Every day, these billion trillion dollars from this guy, Michael Saylor, another billion dollars from that guy. Larry Fink, another billion dollars from this guy. Like, where are these guys getting all this money, man? Trillion, billion, million. It's always trillions and billions and millions. So there's a lot of money pouring into this, especially from the institutions. So it could be setting up, but interest rates, like, things have to align, right? And the interest rates are not aligned right now. So I think that's one thing that holds this back. Okay. So this is, I think, a good time for positioning. You definitely want to do your research and find the ones that have greater potential. Right now, so I have to do some more research on things like Doge and all that stuff. But I'm trying to find coins that are really off everyone's radar as well. Like for example, Alex sent me an article. Alex from Romania, that had some interesting information that was published. He summarized it, and it went over like coins like Link, Chain Link, Ondo, like they had some good use case arguments because they're like basically infrastructure plays, which the blockchain, without them there's no blockchain. There's just no blockchain at all, right? Or whatever, without the stuff that they're doing. So the tokenization theme, and that kind of thing, like, that's a big one. I think Ondo is a big one with that. So you want to pay attention to those type of themes, like the necessities of this game, rather than fart coin. All right, you understand what I'm saying? So like Doge is like fart coin, man. It's a joke. There's no reason for Doge. So, do you think Bitcoin will hold 92K support and test all-time high? Well, I don't know if Bitcoin. I mean, I'm bullish. There's no question. I believe in the bullish argument. It's just a matter of the catalyst. I believe that we're potentially in wave 5 of Bitcoin. We're not in a wave 4. We refuse to break below 88K and stay below. We've broken below it briefly, but this thing barely spends any time below 88K. And 88K was a key level for me as far as the wave 1, wave 4 overlap. I've talked about that a lot. And I mean, I could show that here on Beto, or let's see, what I could, no, grayscale, GBTC, right? So, or actually, if I just go to BTC, this is the other grayscale one. Yeah, this is more of a reflection of Bitcoin, right? So this doesn't have the actual Bitcoin prices, but the chart looks very similar. So in this situation here, like the 88K, let me see, where is that? Let me go to the weekly. I need the weekly chart for this, right? So the 88K area is around here, right? This is the wave 1, wave 4 overlap right there. Okay. If you translate this over to the Bitcoin spot Bitcoin chart, this is 88K right around here, right? That's the overlap. If you see here, we don't spend much time below that overlap. So in my opinion, it's not broken, right? And if that's the case, that means that this move is not the broader wave 2, it's wave 4 still. Okay. And because wave 4s can do stuff like this. And we're preparing for wave 5, right? And wave 5 is likely to test the 126 high. That's my thinking structurally, technically, right? Now, of course, fundamentals need to agree with that. So we need those low interest rates. Remember, no more Powell movements. Powell's going to have to throw in the towel because he's out. Powell is going to be part of the unemployment statistic very soon. So when NFP comes out, Powell's name is going to be in the unemployment part of it. So they're going to have a new guy in there, and he's going to be Trump's girlfriend. I could use a more vulgar word, but we'll just say Trump's girlfriend. Trump's girlfriend on the side, and he's going to say yes to everything. So we don't have that yet. Have they even named the guy? I know it was like a big probability, but I thought Trump was actually going to name someone. And I know that guy Besant said that they were going to actually come up with a name, but I haven't been following that. Anyway, that guy is gonna shape things as well. And that all that positioning. Remember, we have the Clarity Act that they say that's actually going to go into effect in the next few weeks. We'll have to see, because these people like to push paper around. Like, oh yeah, we're going to have it done by Thursday, and then they don't have it done. But that is going to change some things. So these things start to align. This thing is in position. It looks kind of ugly right now, right? This looks like a lower high. If you just showed me the chart and told me nothing else, I would say, okay, lower high, looking for the test of low. Okay, that's 80K right there. We could possibly get that as well. So I'm generally bearish, but I'm open to the idea that we can see this test. And that would be a failed low double bottom situation. Kind of like back here, right? Kind of like that. So we could get that, okay? That's a possibility, but we have to see what the market throws at us, and we have to keep an open mind. I'm not going to sit here and make that jump to that conclusion when this thing can easily produce a higher low somewhere in the middle and then, pop higher. I mean, no one was expecting to test the 95K. I mean, this thing went to 97K. Yeah, we have resistance, right? 100K is next if we can get back up through there. You see that? I mean, look at that. 100K is like equivalent to like up here somewhere. That's like 100K on the spot market. Make sense? So I could go over it here in this sense because this is not the Bitcoin chart. This is the grayscale chart. It's an ETF, right? It's a stock. You can buy this thing. So 88K. No. Here's the thing, Benjamin. We've broken 88K, but we don't spend much time below it. So in order to invalidate the wave 5 idea, we need to stay below 88K. We need to break 80K and we need to see 78K, and we need to spend a few weeks below that. We need to clearly and decisively stay below 88K, not break it. And then a couple of days after we're back to it. And then we're back to 93K. That doesn't count. Okay. So just be aware of that. If we break that 78K, or we're pushing like 73K, and it's okay, then I'll say, all right, I think it's broken. And then we're likely in the broader wave two. If we're in broader wave two, this thing can get ugly. We could see 60K, we could see 50K. But we're going to have a catalyst that's going to have to be behind that. It's not going to happen just to happen. There has to be something driving it, right? Some major news. Bitcoin's obsolete because, China came up with another Bitcoin. I'm just making stuff up. China's a scam, folks. You know what I'm saying? So there would have to be some kind of major catalyst to cause that. Otherwise, this thing is just preparing. And it's just hard for me to believe with all this institutional heavy duty investment going in. I just find it hard to believe we're going to see that wave two. Okay? Because these guys don't play to lose, man. Hey, Kai. Oh, no problem. Yeah, I came up. Well, I published it like at like 3 o'clock. I was running behind. I'm always running behind. Could this 95K just be a bounce before 50K? It's possible, Benjamin. It is possible. You have to be open to that. That would be that would be the wave two scenario. But we need a catalyst. Like, what's the catalyst? Kai, thanks for stopping by. I really like that MP idea that you shared with us the week before. So so Benjamin, yeah. So just you have to be aware of both sides and just keep tabs on both arguments. But the key is the catalyst, and I don't see any bearish catalysts. Do you? Do you guys see? I mean, you guys may follow more news items than I do, but I mean, we need to see a serious bearish catalyst. The structure could be setting up, but if we don't get a bearish catalyst, this thing is just going to fluctuate, maybe hold like 90K again and start working its way higher. And the reason why I'm more optimistic rather than bearish is because we have an interest rate environment or a Fed agenda that favors the bullish argument. The bonds don't agree with that. The bonds are going to have to change, but the bonds are not in a bad. They look ugly, but they're not in a bad situation yet. Okay. Well, SPX is in a position. XPX. We talked about that at the beginning, Benjamin. I spent about 10 minutes on the SPX. I know you weren't here, but the stock market is in a position to pull back. I was saying it's high risk. We're at high risk levels. But I don't know about the magnitude of the pullback. Now, AI bubble popping, that's interesting. But here's the thing with that. I believe in that AI bubble idea. Inflation. Well, okay. Well, we have mega inflation, but we have it right now, right? And all they want to do is cut rates. So I mean, the Fed would have to change their actions. And I don't know how they're going to do that with a new Fed chairman coming in who's going to, basically do whatever Trump wants. If they we're going to put zero rates and we're going to send stimulus checks out to everyone. How are they going to, like over the short term, maybe first quarter, second quarter? I don't know. I just don't see the bearish catalyst in that sense. We're going to get the new chairman in May. So if it surges, right? I mean, at some point they're going to have to say, okay, we need to cool this thing off. We're out of control, right? So I would say after the second quarter, going to the third quarter, then maybe we'll have a better idea of the Fed if the Fed changes their tune. But by that time, Bitcoin may be on its highs. Okay, right. And they're trying to push oil. I mean, we talked about that oil situation. See, oil is a major component in this. They're trying to keep those prices low. The thing you have to understand, I know Kai understands this, but you have to understand, charts only give us a small piece of the puzzle. We have a government agenda here. We have, the administration has an agenda, and they're going to do things. They've been doing things, right? And they're going to continue to do things to get things their way. And they have a lot of power to do that. So they can shape the future. They change laws. They do this. They do that. Right? They take over other countries. We're going to be taking over. We're going to go after Romania soon. we're imperial again. Like they do stuff. No one expected this Venezuela thing. I mean, we knew that there was going to be trouble, but it comes out of nowhere. One day this guy is in his house relaxing. Next day he's on a boat to New York. Going to court. So you know what I mean. Things change real fast, man. So the catalyst. We need to see a catalyst. Um, Okay, right. So, and I said that inflationary argument, I do believe will come back because we're in ridiculous mode. Okay. Right. No, Kai. No, right, Kai. You're just talking about what we're talking about. What could the catalysts be? Because and that's a good catalyst. I believe the long term. I believe we're gonna have to face that at some point, right? But I suspect uh, the current administration, they're going to fight it as much as they can going up until those midterm elections. Think about that. We have those midterm elections, what, in November, right? They want Republicans to own those midterms. How are they going to do that if everyone is poor? No one can afford food. Bread is $100, right? How are they going to do that? No one's going to vote for them. So they have to bribe everyone. They're gonna have to pull whatever they can out of their ass to make things look good. And then after that, they can be like, okay, who cares? Right? Just something to keep in mind. When I think long term, I'm only thinking maybe 6 months out, maybe a year out. Because it's 5 years, man. It's just we're at like ridiculous levels in a lot of things. Um, Yeah, they're gonna try everything. Trump will only win midterms if he says right. Well, right, stocks, right? Because he always points out the stocks and the 401ks, folks. Your 401ks make 401ks great again, right? So if you look at my 401k is doing it, and then you put on your glasses, and then you pull out I'm making money. Yeah, I think I'm gonna vote for Trump again. But once the midterm results are in, then who cares, right? Who cares after that? So if they're going to try to get it all in now, and I suspect, and then after that, I think they're just going to continue to abuse what they're abusing and try to run away with as much as they can because that's been going on. That some of that stuff's been going on. Is just like we're worse than Venezuela over here. It's like a Latin American country over here. So anyway, so but you guys get my point. So be aware. Don't we look at charts here, but when it comes to longer term investing, you need to be aware of the political landscape, the economic landscape, the global political and economic landscape, not just the domestic. You have to be aware of the interest rates. You got to put these puzzle pieces together to get a sense of, okay, where are we in the business cycle? What do interest rates look like? And how does this look for longer term investing? Now, look, if you're in something for 10 years, I mean, that's a totally separate game because, no matter where you are in the cycle, you just have to adjust to where you are in the cycle, and if we're in a expansionary part, great. Perhaps you're buying more or whatever. But if we're in a recessionary part, which I don't think we're in that yet, or we're in any kind of severe part of it yet, that's where you want to like maybe hold off or wait till it gets extreme so that you could start buying more, right? I'm talking about you're going to sit in the stock for like 5 or 10 years, right? Because you believe in the company, you're collecting whatever, you know what I mean? So and again, that's a fundamental game. Okay, so now, right, right, Kai. So right, no, so I know it's not all about stocks. Trump could always. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I like that, Secretary. Trump could just get rid of the elections, right? Just become an emperor. We're gonna have an emperor. You have a coronation over here. We're gonna have an emperor Trump. You know, NVO. Okay, I can look at. I got to wrap this up, man. I know I'm just tired, but I got. I've been talking a lot. I got to wrap. I got to do my. I got to. I got to do my other work. Um. Oh, oh. Oh, you're talking about what's her face? Harris. Yeah, another one. Uh, another yeah. So anyway, all right. So you guys get it. So that's my point. Be aware of this stuff. Do this homework. It's very easy to do this homework with AI. You can find out a lot of stuff. So, all right, let me do one of these stocks for Benjamin over here, and then I'm going to wrap this up. Let's see. NVO. What is NVO? Let's take a look. NVO. What is that? Novo. Oh, okay. Well, let's see. Let's compare that one real quick. Let's see AMD. Right, because then AMD. Well, I'll tell you right. Just that quick comparison. AMD looks better. But we all know AMD is a AI play, right? They're an AI play. I mean, all right. Let's do AMD. I think it's a more interesting chart. Look at this gap. Look at this. Look at that gap, right? Major gaps like that act as support or resistance levels. Look how clear that is, right? Any test of this gap. I mean, look at that. That's nice. So, I mean, what do you do now? The S&P is in a vulnerable position. I would not want to buy this thing now, but generally, I like it. I mean, it's generally bullish. I am long and looking to add to both. I start positions NVO at 48 and AMD at 87. Let's see. Oh wow, hey, that's a nice AMD position, man. All right, so for someone in your position, I mean, there's nothing to do here. Let it run, right? Let it run until it can't run anymore. Like maybe one thing you could do is trail a stop or something. But one thing I would recommend. I mean, look at this thing. We have to see how these things open up for the week. Let's see where we can find an order block, because I'm into order blocks now. Let's see. This I think this is an order block up in here. Okay, like that area right there. That would probably be a good area to maybe take some profit off the table, right? The highs, which is 260 area. Just lock in something, perhaps maybe 10%, 15% of your position, something small, but just you're taking money off the table while risk is becoming elevated, right? Nothing wrong with that. And then it should make higher highs. If this higher low holds, it theoretically should make higher highs, and it's poised to do so, right? So if everything else follows through and the bonds follow through, I mean, again, this is part of the AI hype cycle and all that other stuff, but so far it looks good, right? So that's just a holder. Let it run and take some. I would recommend just taking some money off the table along the way. Let's just take some. Let me take a quick look here at the weeklies. As the weekly, as are these all time highs? Has this thing ever been higher? No, these are all time highs, man. So when this thing, if this thing breaks out and starts going to all time highs, I mean, you're in. There's no reference points. That's when you go to the extension tool, right? Because you need reference points, and you do something like this. You look for like extensions, and you say, okay, where's the next extension after that breakout? So you have like the 1.0, which is at 309. That would be an equivalent, like a symmetrical move from this move that I just measured here, 309. So that around the 300 level, that would probably be a good reference area to lock in more profit. Does that make sense? Okay, order blocks. That's right. I mean, I like that they serve as good reference points because they actually have some value. I just think it's ridiculous how they define them. Okay, or ICT, how they define order blocks is ridiculous. They don't work like that, the way they define them. I mean, okay, we have to see what happens is, but okay, right. I am okay. Okay, all right. So you guys follow me on that? I like it. I have to wrap this up, man. So I'd like to go over the other one, but I really got to wrap this up. So Benjamin, I appreciate you coming in. Ask me next week, and we'll do this again. Okay. Yeah. So would you sell most of it and try to no, well, no. So Benjamin, I mean, I don't know how much you have. You don't have to tell us. But again, 10 or 15, I would not sell most of it. No, I would not. Like, so I'll give you an example. If I had 100 shares, Okay. And this thing starts working its way up into here. Like at this moment, I wouldn't sell anything. At this moment, I'd give this thing a chance. Let's see how the week begins. I would be anticipating a breakout, push higher, especially at the beginning, right? Especially if it's S&P. I mean, S&P, they're not in great spots, but I mean, the NASDAQ looks like it's poised to break out, and this thing will probably benefit from that. So any push into this zone, if you get any strong day, like tomorrow, Wednesday, or whatever, get a nice strong day, hey, why not put a limit order out, take 10% off? So if I had 100 shares, I'd sell 10 shares. 10, maybe 15 shares, lock it, just take some money off the table. And then if it happens to pull back again, then you could buy that back. But I wouldn't be in a hurry to sell this thing. This thing is in a nice, very nice configuration here. And well, so I'm not going to go over this, but let's just take a look at the Coinbase chart real quick. So look, Coinbase, right? I don't have many shares of this. I only have a few, literally a few. This look like it's trying to give us a double bottom situation, but I want to buy more Coinbase, but you know, Bitcoin is not exactly performing, right? So this thing is also hesitating a bit. This thing could break. That's why I don't buy a ton of these. You know, I like yeah, that AMD looks nice. And I like that MP. I like MP a lot, Kai. I've been looking at this MP. This was one that Kai meant. Look at this. This is beautiful. Kai, you got to call these more often, man. This is beautiful. Look at that. Look at this. This is basically a bet on USA Empire, the U.S. Empire. I like it a lot. There's so many reasons for this thing to go higher. I mean, this is just like wow. I like this one. So anyway, I mean, at this point, I wouldn't buy it, but look at these beautiful structures. Any pullback, man. Any pullback. AMD could be a short or a long. Okay, right. Well, I mean, AMD is just an AI hype play, I believe. You know, because of their deal with OpenAI. I just if the AI train continues, AMD is going to continue, and I think it's poised to push that high. Um, well, but if you own, who's in premium? AMD chart looks good, but they are in premium. Right. So that's okay not to buy premium. You know, you want to, of course, you want to buy it when it's cheap. If you're talking about premium, if you're talking about in terms of EPS, I don't know what you mean by that. Right. No, I'm not suggesting chasing. Like in your position with AMD, you're in a situation where you're in some great shares and let it ride and start locking in. Like this is a position really be taking risk off, but not a lot of it because give it a chance. Give it a chance to run. You know, let your profits run, right? Until it's really showing signs of problems, right? And support's starting to break, and we're seeing problems in other areas. AI, you know, Chat GPT goes out of business. You know what I'm just exaggerating, but you know what I'm saying. Stuff like that. But you'll see those changes start to happen, and that's probably when you really want to get out or really start selling, right? But right now, you can sell while you can, and I would say just sell small and lock in profits along the way, right? Take it, sell into the strength, and give it a chance to make that higher high because it's poised to do that. All right, you guys. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap this up. I gotta go, man. But I hope you got value out of the stream. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, you know where to find me. All right. So make sure you're in my Telegram channel. That's why I have this QR code up on here. A lot of updates in there. Video every day. I got to make my video. And make sure you keep an eye on that stuff, right? Because that's where all the Bitcoin stuff is. And then we'll go from there. All right, guys. So, guys, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your evening, wherever you're in the world. And thank you again for watching.